Welcome to the Founder Hour podcast. Before we get into the episode, just a quick word about our sponsor, Outer. You know I've raved about Outer before, and I love my Outer sofa, outdoor dining table, and chairs. I've had them for over a year, and let me tell you, they've been through everything from rainstorms to scorching sun and still look brand new. That's because Outer makes outdoor furniture that's actually designed for the outdoors. From using incredibly durable and sustainable materials to developing innovative solutions like the Outer shell cover, which protects my sofa and dining table against dust, debris, and dirt. No more soggy cushions or dusty tabletops. My Outer setup is always clean, dry, and ready to be enjoyed anytime I want. Head to liveouter.com/thefounderhour to see Outer's range of outdoor furniture, fire pits, and accessories. The Founder Hour listeners get an exclusive 10% off for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. So elevate your outdoor space with Outer. That's liveouter.com/thefounderhour. Here we go. Troy Arntsen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. Let's start a little bit, let's take it back and kind of learn a little bit about your early days and, what life was like for you growing up and kind of what kind of kid were you? What were you into? I know you eventually went to engineering school, and we'll talk about that. But I guess when you were younger, what kind of kid was young Troy?
Yeah, I grew up in Minnesota in a small town called Excelsior, which is near Minneapolis. And it was a great place to grow up, a beautiful area. We had lakes, loved running around, going out, fishing. I was the middle of three boys. I was a middle child. And it was a nice growing up. My parents would describe me as a daydreamer. I was always, just kind of off in the clouds a little bit, they would say. But I think it was undiagnosed ADHD, really. But it's always, been something that, I've had where I'll, just kind of go into my own headspace and think about things. So I think it was challenging, going through school that way a little bit. I was an okay student, but I found out, early I was pretty good at math and science. And I did just good enough to qualify for engineering school at the University of Minnesota. And so that's kind of the trajectory I took from there.
Were either of your parents engineers, or what did they do?
Yeah, that's my dad is a electrician, and he went on to be a master electrician, taught other electricians. And then when I was a young child, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. They had us very young. And then she went on to go to nursing school after that, became a nurse. And that was kind of interesting and kind of inspiring for me as a kid, seeing her do that.
Yeah. So you study engineering. What was the plan? Were you gonna leave and be an engineer? What kind of engineering were you studying?
Yeah, I went to school at University of Minnesota for mechanical and industrial engineering. Mm-hmm. And coming out of high school, I just knew I was good at math and science, and that was kind of the best school I could get into. And so I pursued that education, and I did okay at it. But progressively as things went along, I really realized that I didn't like doing engineering over extended periods of time. I think probably it goes back to it's just hard for me to sit there and work on one problem for an extended period. So I started taking some business classes. I went into industrial engineering as a sub-major. I really loved economics classes. And so, I kind of saw as my college career was winding down that I didn't want to become an engineer.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Now I feel like there's a lot more testing and things that you can kind of learn a little bit more about yourself and what maybe kind of career paths to take that align better with. It's interesting because it's not just what you're interested in, but like you said, it's your personality, how you can, if you can sit and work on something for 40 hours straight versus not, right? Yes. So there's so many elements that to consider, I guess, when it comes to deciding what should I do for my career, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. And so, as I was finishing my education, I started applying for jobs, and the first job I got, or that I that I took was with a computer chip manufacturing company, and they were hiring the industrial engineering students to help run the wafer fab in Minnesota where they're making computer chips. And that was like a really interesting experience for me and very formative. That environment is, I think, super unique and not something we were necessarily used to in the Midwest. It really had a lot of like the Silicon Valley, like startup mentality there. And on the first day, I remember, showing up for work, and they handed me a book. It was called No Excuses Management, and it was written by T.J. Rogers, who was the CEO and founder of the company.
Oh, nice.
And
just handing out his books to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, just like one phrase from it where you saying that you have to do 1,000 things right to make a computer chip, and doing 999 things right guarantees failure, not success. And so it was a very like company really driven that way, and it was very is high, highly charged. You really needed to meet expectations, and it really was kind of a environment of no excuses. I mean, I definitely run Voluspa in a more empathetic way than that, but I think that those lessons that I learned really helped me as I kind of went on and ended up pursuing my own entrepreneurial path. Because when you're running a business, at the end of the day, like when payroll is due or you got to pay the bank, you can't really have excuses. You have to, get to that place where you're successful in each thing that you do.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, when entrepreneurship and just like the concept of having your own business, that thought came in your head, because working at a company that it's still, the founder's still there and it's still founder led versus working at like Coca-Cola or somewhere that the founder's like long gone. Like you get that exposure into what it's like, to build, someone has built something from nothing, and they're, it's this huge company, and they're, all these employees, and like there's a lot of stuff happening. Was that where you kind of, started thinking, oh, maybe I could start my own company one day?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it leads me to a very interesting story. And the CEO of Cypress worked out in Silicon Valley, and so he wasn't around at our plant in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. But after working there a couple of years, I did well. I got promoted. I was managing a group of about 50 people at a pretty young age, 23, 24 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I bought a duplex in Minneapolis, and I moved in upstairs. And then downstairs, there's a couple guys living down there that had their own business, which was importing essential oils, which are used in flavors, fragrances, aromatherapy.
Right.
And I befriended them, and I'd go down there and we'd have conversations, and they'd kind of tell me about their business and what their plans were for the future. And I was totally wrapped in those conversations because, for me, it wasn't really, I feel like I barely even knew what an entrepreneur was at that point. Because, my dad was an electrician. My mom's a nurse. As I said, it was very, you followed a path of like, you're going to go to college, which is amazing. They're so proud of me that I became an engineer or got an engineering degree anyways. And then I got a great job at a company. Yeah. And, the idea of, going off and like starting your own business and back in kind of in the Midwest, I feel also like it's not as prevalent as here in Southern California.
And what time period is this?
So this is like 1997.
Okay, yeah. So had the internet sort of wave hit that? I mean, it sounds like they had plants there, but was there like this like boom of internet companies starting out in Minnesota?
Yeah, no, not at all. Everything was pretty rudimentary, and at that computer chip company, they're making memory chips, so it was used more in like computing, not so much like internet at that point. And the internet was just like in the very, very early phases and not really used commercially.
Right. And like you mentioned like essential oils. I mean, e-commerce wasn't even a thing back then. Not really. I mean, there was some early like Amazon, I think, had started, and like some early kind of quote unquote e-commerce companies, but like I'm assuming an essential oil company wasn't selling online, so they were probably going the more traditional route of selling in like whether it was like stores or were they like what was the business? How big was that business?
Yeah, it was very small. It was
Yeah.
those guys operating out of the apartment downstairs, and they would import. They had family connections back in India, and they would import the oils and sell them to either like compounders or like shampoo companies or things of that nature. And so, I just became wrapped in the idea of entrepreneurship and just thinking about, like at the computer chip company, I could see like where my career would go, years or decades down the line if I did well, kind of where eventually I could end up, which is great. However, I just love that idea of like unlimited possibility of like, this could go anywhere. This, dream could take any form, and kind of the that unlimited potential really drew me. So I ended up deciding to become partners with them. And I quit my job at the computer chip company, and that was a really kind of crazy time. And my parents and my family just thought I'd like lost it entirely.
What was that? Well, I mean, how did that even happen? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? And why did it work as a partnership?
Yeah, that's a great question. That we had a lot of conversations, and we became good friends. I think they saw the kind of managerial success that I was having at the computer chip company, and in our conversations, I would just like bring ideas to the table, and I think they really felt like I could add value. I also invested some funds into it as well to become a partner there.
How big was that market? Because I know now it's huge. I mean, there's so many essential oil businesses, and there's all these like like diffusers and things like people. I have one in my place. I like you see it at everyone's house now, and it's like essential oils everywhere. But back then, was it a big business? And if not, like what was the opportunity you saw?
Yeah, it was back then mostly they were used for more commercial purposes. There was like
it wasn't a consumer product.
Food. There was, but it was not nearly as prevalent. It was just really like the natural stores that would carry brands of aromatherapy oils. And so when I joined, I don't think I fully understood that in the beginning, and then we actually pivoted kind of quickly to producing a consumer brand where we would like sell the oils in like smaller bottles and then put them in, other consumer products like aromatherapy candles, which was kind of new at the time. And that kind of really supercharged the business. And then from there, we had to like get a little factory space and warehouse. And, we started, instead of just having a few customers, we would have, few hundred or 100 customers, including retail stores. And so that was a pretty exciting change.
So other than the product itself, did you see that it was like on this path of growth? Like it was, it was kind of, you saw like a path that would make sense for you to leave your job and obviously make enough money to pay the bills, but also that it would be perhaps something that you could create into like a big company or something one day?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had kind of big dreams with it, and my partners were, also kind of spoke that way, which enticed me to join it.
Uh-huh.
After I joined, we wrote a good business plan, got a little investment money from a family member of one of my partners, and so we kind of like this venture lasted about 2 years, and during that time. It was a lot of fun. We grew it fast. I was just like, personally, I had no idea how to run a business. And, we were kind of like burning through money, putting things on credit cards, doing whatever it kind of took to, make the next sale, bring the next amount of inventory in. But, as so often happens when you have partnerships like that, over a period of time, I could see kind of the writing on the wall that we saw things a different way, and then a certain like kind of struggles started coming along, and the investor putting a little pressure on. Became clear to me that that wasn't going to work out in the long term.
Yeah.
So that was like a second huge pivot moment in my life where I decided to exit that. So yeah, that was an interesting big decision for me. But out of those kind of ashes is where Voluspa began.
Okay, listen up. It's 2024. Are you still using your personal phone number for your startup? One of the most common founder mistakes I see is using your personal phone for business. OpenPhone has completely rethought every detail of what a business phone should look like and do in 2024. OpenPhone makes it super easy to get business phone numbers for your whole team. It works through a beautiful app on your phone or computer and integrates with CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce. It's the number one business phone on G2 for customer satisfaction with over 1,700 reviews. And here's a feature that I love personally. With OpenPhone's AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, you can have a summary of your phone call with action items right when you hang up. No more note-taking or forgotten to-dos. What's more is that every employee that's sharing that phone number with you has access to it too. Total recall across your entire team. OpenPhone is already affordable at a starting price of $15 per user per month. But for a limited time, the Founder Hour listeners can get 20% off for 6 months. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. Head to openphone.com/founder to start your free trial and get 20% off.
So yeah, you mentioned like early on not really having started a business before and like not knowing how to run a business and just kind of throwing yourself into it and figuring it out. These days, it's like, there's so many books and podcasts and just like places where you can go and I guess learn about it. But I personally don't think that there's any better way to learn than just doing it. But were there like any resources that you at the time like consumed or looked into that helped, or do you think it was just I'm in it and this is how I'm going to learn it?
Yeah. Unfortunately back then, I mean, as we were saying, the internet wasn't that prevalent. I didn't really know people that were entrepreneurs outside of, my two friends. And so it really was just, trying things and learning as I go, learning from my mistakes. I would have loved to have back then, known what I know now and had the kind of friends that I have now. But I didn't. It was a lot of like learning as I went. And, whereas, I'll give myself credit for like taking that chance. I think, probably spending more time learning more about business ahead of time probably would have been to my advantage.
Yeah. So you exited that essential oil business. What was it called?
It was called Natura Essentials back then, but that's a long time ago now, 25 years. Yeah.
Right. So you left Natura Essentials and then you mentioned that through that kind of experience, Voluspa was born. What happened after you left, and why did you start thinking about candles?
Yeah, so I was at the time living in Minnesota still, and
you're about how old at this time?
Yeah, I was like 27, 28, right in there. So when that didn't work out, it was really, really hard time, and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do next with my life, and I couldn't just go back to back to the computer chip business and go back because I had this taste of entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine if I was in your position, I would be like totally depressed thinking about the notion of going back to that, after having this like experience of building something.
Yeah. Yes. But I had, I was pretty much broke at the time. I just had like a few $1,000s to my name. And I just had this sense of like people were looking at me like, I told you so. That was a crazy idea. What were you doing? You should have, kept on your, safe career path. And so I knew that I couldn't though. So I wanted to start something new. And at the time I was dating Tracy, who became my partner and eventually my wife and the mother of my wonderful children.
Yeah. And
I just kind of like turned to her and was like, I got to start something new. And like, do you want to do it with me? And she was like, yeah, of course.
What
I'm
was
like
she doing
all in
at the time?
Yeah, she worked in like kind of a related company or related industry, in consumer products. And so, but she had like she loved designing, and she did like her mother and father were entrepreneurs back in California. Had like an and still to this day have a plastic bottle company that's very successful. And so, she was all in to do that. And so we're deciding how we're going to start this, where, and we decided, we were kind of picked around the idea of starting it in Southern California, where, versus like Minneapolis, Southern California, there's like so many more resources, a market of 25 million people versus like 2.5 million people. And then her family was out there. And I just kind of needed a change as well, because, after, all I'd been through, and so we just decided to like pack up our cars and move out to Southern California and start up Voluspa.
So a lot of questions. One big one I want to dive into is your mindset at this time, because being in a position where I'm assuming money was like, you mattered a lot, right? You mentioned like you had done this business, it hadn't really worked out. You didn't have as much money now saved up, and you're deciding, I'm not going to take the safe route and go get a salary that could help pay the bills. I'm going to start another business.
Yeah.
That could be super scary. And I think certain people are just wired in a way where you kind of just like look at that kind of thing and you're just like, there's no way I'm doing that. And I'm going to take the biggest risk of my life, but I hope it pays off. But if it doesn't, it's still worth it. But I'm just curious, like in your perspective, like how did you deal with the mental side of all that at that time of knowing that you're going in a direction that is so unknown, and you have no idea where it's going to go, and you're kind of reaching an age where I'm assuming, you want to get married and have children and have a family, and you have to support them, and there's so many bills, right, that come along with that getting into the age of like the late 20s, early 30s and so on. And so how are you dealing with that?
It was difficult. One thing that I, personally have is a lot of grit, I feel like, as a person, and the ability to just really kind of, bury my head down and do what I have to do. I'm kind of an introvert. I don't need a lot of like accolades for what I'm doing.
Did you ever deal with anxiety?
Yes, absolutely. And there, that is really like the hardest thing of like starting up a company from scratch, is really the financial part of it. It was like figuring out how to, pay the bills and, just day to day, especially as you start adding employees and things of that nature. I think like, dealing with anxiety, even talking about your mental health back then, especially in the Midwest, was just very like taboo. So you don't really, it's so fortunate how things have changed over the years, and especially in California, where everyone is like talks about they have their plumber and their therapist, so people have a lot of help in that area. But you just in the Midwest, you kind of like dealt with your own issues back then,
right? Not to mention having a supportive partner and spouse that helps a lot too, right? When you're sort of on the same team, the same side, and you decide like, we're going to go for it. This is what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys moved to California. What was the immediate next step? I mean, did you already have the idea for Voluspa of what you wanted to build or create, or did you move here and then figure that out?
Yeah, well, we had a long car drive from Minnesota to California, and talked about ideas. But I think really, from those early days, we had the founding ideas of, what we wanted to stand for. When I had joined that essential oil company, the first thing I did was like get on a plane and went to India, and we sourced essential oils there. We went to, the places where they distill the essential oils, and I had the, just really formative experiences of, being the place where they're distilling like Himalayan cedar wood and those, aromas, and, feeling just like the natural kind of benefits of essential oils. And, Tracy also had been in that business. And so, we wanted to start a company that was based in, naturals as much as possible. And it was, very early on in that. We also wanted, create, a product line that was very design forward. She's had a lot of design talent, did that as a hobby, and we kind of married those together into our first product line of small line of candles.
I was gonna ask like what the candle market looked like back then, because this is like late like 99, 2000, right?
Yeah, 1999. We're just hit our 25th anniversary this year, which
Incredible.
is pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
thank
amazing
you.
for any business. I mean, 2 years is crazy, 5 years is crazy, but 25 years, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, were they like these boring looking candles that didn't smell great, or what was it? And maybe it wasn't even natural, good for you.
There was like the beginning of like aromatherapy candles out there, which was great. But yeah, most of them were more like dollar store type. The way the market exists today was just like I'd say in its very beginnings back then.
And so, was there like a brand that was really well known, or it was just like brandless stuff that you would just go get just like a candles, like a commodity?
Yeah, I mean, there were some brands that were starting, and there was like a couple that had some prestige already, like Rigaud, for example. They were famous because like Jacqueline Onassis had brought it over, I think like Diptyque was known in the market back then.
Yeah.
But overall, there was not a lot of brand names.
Yeah, reason I ask because it's like one of the biggest deterrents I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs or would be entrepreneurs is when you look at the market and you're like, there's so many big brand names. It's like really hard to like create a brand, and not that it's not possible, but it's just going to be more difficult than if you look at a commoditized market that doesn't have really like one or two big market leaders.
Right.
Then you have a little bit more of a leg up in terms of like being one of the first to market to build a really cool brand that people love.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, the market was changing and I think there was a lot of opportunity, and there was aromatherapy candles, but not like done in a way that it's going to sell well in, Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom in like an upscale market. And I think like we're really one of the leaders in that, and like in bringing these like high quality, more essential oil based fragrances to the more luxury market.
So when you first conceive the idea and start to create the candles, like how many were you creating? Like several fragrances at a time, or was it like one in the beginning and you were trying to sell that?
Yeah, it was, in the beginning, it was like a little line of like maybe 7 or 8 fragrances. And it was like initially like very much aromatherapy based, but then we kind of had to pivot a little bit to make it more commercially effective as a brand, but always like staying as true as possible to the natural origins. So we went in, I still remember like, like Tracy's a great designer, but she, hadn't like, she wasn't a graphic designer, and like going to the printer and handing him a PowerPoint file with like, oh, these are like the 7 labels, and we want you to print like 100 of each of these. And he just like rolling his eyes at us. And, I'm grateful that he like took a chance. Yeah. He still prints labels for us to this day, 25 years later. But it was very basic in the beginning.
Yeah. So when you create them, how many did you have to create initially? Like, was there like a minimum? Like, were you working with like a manufacturer, or were you doing them like yourself?
Yeah, we started making them right out of the kitchen, like right from the beginning. And I guess that's kind of where my engineering background came in handy.
Yeah, tell me about the process. I have no idea. Like, and I know, I'm sure people listening maybe know, but maybe not. Like, what is the process if you're in your kitchen? You're just starting this thing. Maybe you've figured out like these are the different kind of blends that we want to create. How do you create it?
Yeah, it's like fortunately, like there was a place in Los Angeles that was kind of for hobbyists, and they had all of the supplies that were required and some of the knowledge, and so we'd drive up there and learn about the different ingredients that we could use to blend to make the candles. And then they're also available, to purchase, and they actually were for hobbyists, but also I'd say like small businesses. So there was, you could buy things in enough bulk to like scale it a little bit as we were starting off. And so it was just like learning, getting advice from them, going into the kitchen, mixing it together and seeing how it turned out.
Yeah, and so you create like a bunch of candle wax and then you put it in the containers? Like, what's the process?
Yeah. You blend it, and we started off with some like pillar candles where you blend in all the ingredients, the wax ingredients, and you blend in the fragrance, and then you pour that into a mold. And then you have to wait like 6 hours or 8 hours until it cools, and then it shrinks a little bit. And then you have to pour more wax on top of it to cover where it shrank. And so it's kind of like time consuming. And, like in the early days, we would set out and, we just sold to like little boutique stores in the area. And they would like place their orders, and everything was so hand to mouth. So I would, mix up the wax in the garage and like pour it into all these molds, and then I would like set my alarm for like 2:00 in the morning, and then get up and like just go out and like top off all the candles and go back to bed, and then deliver it the next day. Yeah,
like an all day thing. You have to just every few hours.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what was like the early? I mean, how did you start getting them into these boutiques? Were you just going door to door and just pitching it to them?
Yeah, pretty much. We made a little line sheet and, started talking to the local boutique owners. And, that's to this day, I'm so grateful to the boutiques. Now Voluspa is sold in thousands of boutiques worldwide, and, in some of the like larger department stores like Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, Sephora. Anthropology's been, a huge customer of ours, but like those boutiques are really what, got us started. And back then, direct to consumer e-commerce wasn't really a thing. So our business was, entirely based around the boutique stores. And, to this day, like they're amazing. You go into so many here in LA where that carry like a huge portion of our brand that have been doing it since, all the way back, almost from our beginning. And, that's just, it's such a like wonderful, predictable business, good people that are always excited to see what is our newest products that we come out with. And, they're what really, got us going.
And that first kind of batch of products that you created, was it pretty similar to what it is now, or has it evolved over time?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot, and we moved out of the pillar, candles into candles that are poured into containers, which are much more popular. And I think we were one of the brands that helped popularize that. One major thing that happened is, as time went on and natural ingredients became more important, there was this change in the market where some brands started to use soy wax as like their base. And so we started like playing around with that, but we didn't really feel like it was, burning as well and performed as well and worked with our fragrances as well. So we set out to, create a new wax blend that would be very natural, but also like luxurious. And so we started, I guess, that's the first time probably in a while I got to, again, like use some of my engineering background and started experimenting and using different like potential natural oil types. And so we were experimenting with like palm and apricot and then eventually found coconut oil. And we created this coconut oil wax blend that was just really phenomenal. It's just like a beautiful wax base that like holds fragrance well and gives a really clean, beautiful burn. And so we like rolled that out into all of our candle products, and that was really I think a pivotal moment for us because I think we really delivered to our customers. Really fulfilled on our promise at that point.
Yeah, early on, I'm curious what the sort of feedback. I'm assuming it was good because especially if the boutiques kept ordering, but being in a market that sounds like there wasn't like this. It was like pretty standardized, and it's like you mentioned like these dollar store candles. How did you? I don't know what price point it was, if it's similar to now, but how did you create this? Like, how did consumer behavior change, and how did consumers get used to paying a higher price for a better quality candle versus the status quo of just like I could just walk into a dollar store and buy $1 candle? Do you think it was just the experiencing it and, for the first time and understanding it just immediately, or was there this like educational piece, and was it a process over time, or did it happen pretty quickly?
Yeah, it was really important for us as a brand to deliver the quality that would justify that higher price point. So when they took that candle home and burned it, that they could clearly see and feel and understand the difference. And often having an honest, authentic relationship with our clients has always been really at the core of our brand. Like what we deliver for the price is actually pretty amazing in the sense of, when you buy a Voluspa candle, you're getting this coconut wax, you're getting, a lot of fragrance that's like as natural as possible. And, like our best selling size is like a $35 jar approximately. And, you can go to, a mass retailer and buy, a candle that size for half the price, maybe even less. But the Voluspa candle is going to burn probably twice as long because the candle is, made with this quality wax.
Yeah.
You're going to have the fragrance experience is going to be so much better. And, our decorative, the design of our candles is beautiful and top notch. And, as you, something you want in your home that really like lends to the experience and mood that you want to create in your house. So even though it was more expensive, it was really, really worth it. And I think like we've always really felt good about what we've provided for the price that our customers are paying.
Yeah. Have you ever been approached like by other brands to like white label like your process? Like essentially like you guys create the candles, I'll put my brand name on it?
Yeah, we used to do that in the early days. That really paid the bills and kept the lights on. And we also learned a lot. Like at one point we made candles for like one of the huge cosmetic companies, and they came out, and it was so good for us to like learn, because the quality process that they put us through was like pretty intense and next level. But we learned a lot from it, and so we did that for a number of years, but then, eventually we realized that it really was distracting from our goal of creating this great brand. And so we've stopped doing that outside of, maybe like a co-branded product, but nothing white label anymore.
Feeling stressed, struggling to sleep at night, or just need a little health boost? Look no further than Magnesium Breakthrough from BioOptimizers. It's the only supplement on the market that combines seven types of magnesium in one bottle, each with unique benefits for your body. Whether you need help with muscle recovery, heart health, or energy production, Magnesium Breakthrough has you covered. Plus, it's all natural, vegan, and gluten-free. Head to biooptimizers.com/founderhour and use the code FOUNDERHOUR for 10% off your order. Don't miss out on the #1 selling magnesium supplement.
In a lot of industries, you see when a new company, like an upstart, creates like a novel way of doing something or a product or a service, you see a lot of like copycats and like Me Too's and competitors start popping up when they see something's working and they're like, oh, maybe we could do the same thing and, compete with them. Did you see that? And if you did, like sometimes, there's like patent protection and things like that when you're creating products. Did you have to go through those types of processes at all, like early on?
Yeah, I remember, an early on memory of maybe not early on, maybe halfway through our company journey. Like one day somebody called and asked us if we were selling in one of the like mass market retailers, and we were like, of course not. We would never sell there. And they're like, send us a picture, and it looked like almost just like our product, and like. The way it felt at the time is like it just kind of put us in a panic, and we're like, we're finished. Like everyone's gonna, not, perceive us as high end anymore. They're gonna think that we're selling there. Or
these big companies have like economies of scale, so they can undercut the price and sell it for a cheaper price. Yep.
Right. Yes. And So we felt like a lot of gloom at the time, but like in the end, the effect was like absolutely zero. Like there was zero impact. Like our customers, maybe a couple called confused, but the consumer didn't confuse it. They knew the difference. And if you went and you bought it, the candle that would look just like ours at the mass retailer, it wasn't the same quality. It wasn't the same brand, certainly. So we were okay.
Yeah, there was like a sense of brand loyalty from
Yeah.
customers. That's great. So as it started to grow, and now you're probably hiring people and building out a team. What was that experience like for you? Because you had never been in that position before. So having to like manage and lead while also build a business. Like how was and then obviously as it grows, like getting into like the big name department stores, and some of the ones that you mentioned, I can imagine that's not like an easy thing to do. So what was like that growth process like?
Yeah, that was it was really wonderful with each step, like getting big enough to like hire an employee to do something that I had to do myself. Because I joke now, like where I used to do like every job in the company, and now I don't know how to do any of the jobs in the company.
That's how it should be.
Yeah,
that's ideal.
Yeah. And so, just in the beginning, getting people to help, pour the candles was wonderful. And, some of those folks still, work with us today, going back, almost 25 years, which is good. And, with each step, we're able to hire, more and more sophisticated people with skills that could really help us. And, I think, back in 2005, that's when, we had our first daughter. I have 3 daughters. And that actually was a huge moment because at that point, being a father became my biggest priority.
Yeah.
More than, than the company itself. And so at that point, I really, had to put a lot of thought into the management team and who I'm hiring, and feeling good about, letting other people, work on the business, do things for the business in my absence. And, that was really a wonderful thing because the amount of hours that I worked, was able to go down, dramatically. And I rather enjoy, managing the team. It's like one of the things that really gives me a lot of joy, being an entrepreneur. And I'm so proud of the team that we have. And I think they really are like the secret sauce to our success. And so many have been with us from the early days and have risen from like the very lowest or more functional areas of the company up to like leading departments these days. So that's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. It seems like in the last decade and a half or so, e-commerce is, it seems like it has exploded, but it's still like a fraction of overall sales for so many businesses. But I'm just curious for Voluspa, like as e-commerce started to grow and people are buying online and perhaps all these like other like online retailers like Amazon and different places start popping up. How does Voluspa like start to introduce that, and what has the experience been like?
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun for me because it's been something that I've had to learn, and I always love a new challenge. And in my mind, I'm like, just because we were here before doesn't mean like we're not going to be the leader. I want to be. We have a thing that we strive for excellence at Voluspa in whatever we do, and if we're going to do in e-commerce itself, we would expect no less, and we want to be cutting edge with that. We started really, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. In the early days, you kind of had to be careful because you didn't want to compete with your retailers. And, that made sense. But, over time, all brands really, have to have a website and have to do e-commerce because, if you have a successful online footprint, if you're doing well, it's like the, rising tide lifts all boats. So,
Yeah.
if you've got a great e-commerce site, it's just going to help your retailers when customers like saw it there, are familiar with it there, learned about the brand there, and they walk into a store and there it is, and they're going to buy it. And
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
so we we really kind of had to learn as we went. But I think the big change there really occurred during COVID for us, because there was really an explosion in the e-commerce business, and in particular with home fragrance, because there's a lot of people at home, and they're not going out to the retail stores, and they want to create a space in their home, and so suddenly we were the amount of business went up by multiples in e-commerce, and so it really kind of changed a lot of things fundamentally.
Sometimes I think it's difficult for brands sometimes to stick to what's stick to what they're doing, because you see like these trends and you want to kind of hop on those trends, and then sometimes it doesn't pan out as well as you might think. And I think that there's like a power in like saying no to things and just sticking to like what is best and what works. But throughout the years, have there been any trends in the space that have come up that you've seen that maybe you decided to, like take on versus not, like, and what were those trends?
Yeah, I think I always look at the trends in terms of, we want to bring a sophistication to our products, but not take ourselves like too seriously. And so we design beautiful vessels, bright, vibrant colors. And as we are, thinking about, we always want to like stick to who we are and be authentic. And when you want to decorate your home or your apartment and make it, smell nice, what you're going to get from Voluspa. So, through the years, there's been trends where, people are making different like shapes out of candles, or putting different things in them, or doing a lot of different kind of novelty approaches. So we stay on top of new scent technologies, but we stay true to who we are.
Yeah, and what are those? I mean, like, what is when you think about the future of the candle space? And we'll talk about the future of Voluspa as well. But what do you see coming? You mentioned candle technologies. Like, do you think will like Voluspa be like an AI company one day? No, but it seems like everyone's becoming an AI company. Yeah. But yeah, what are you seeing like in the next, let's say, 5 to 10, 15 years?
Yeah, the candle industry is, it's been around almost like as old as time, practically, right, if you think about it. And, as there's been this shift where people spend more time at home, we play in a more important role. Scent is incredibly important to people. It is like, it's the sense that's most closely related to memory and emotion. It has, your olfactive sense is directly connected to your limbic system, which is the area of your brain of emotion and memory. And so we want, when people think about Voluspa, like we want people to think about having us in your home and creating an environment that is like a place that you want to be, a place that feels good, and it changes. Like that's where we have different scents. Like if you want to feel uplifted, you can burn a goji Taraka orange candle, or if you want to relax, like a lavender scent. And so we know like our place in like creating a beautiful, inspiring space for people in their home. And so I think the candles we create will always be at the center of that. But we have reed diffusers. There's more scent technology for diffusing directly into a space. So we're constantly working to innovate in those, while at the same time staying true to what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you like ever would ever, and I don't know if you have, but like would branch out to other sort of things or products that kind of relate to that mission of the feeling in the home and yes, there are products that we augment with, or and then also like it's interesting sitting here near Universal Studios, because we're doing something new that I'm very excited about, where we have we're doing a license with NBC Universal for the Wicked movie. Amazing. I was going to ask if you ever do like collaborative things.
Yeah. And that's something that we have not done before. And actually is very flattering for us that they reached out to us, because this movie is cinematically. I don't know if you've seen any of the trailers for it yet,
I have
but
not.
it's cinematically just gorgeous. The storytelling is amazing, and I think that they wanted a home fragrance partner that could really kind of capture the essence of what they've been creating with that movie, and so they reached out to us, and we're just we're excited about that opportunity, and so we went and created some incredible products around that.
What is that process like? I'm assuming they say like this is the feeling we want to, exude through the candles, right? And how do you come up with that?
Yeah, well, we have an incredible design team. Jimmy, who's like our lead designer of our candle vessels. He's been with Voluspa from the time where my oldest daughter was like literally in a crib right next to his desk. He's I think the best like designer in the industry in terms of creating a candle vessel, and so he was like tasked with creating something that would be at that level, it's they gave us a lot of information and like what the movie's kind of about, and then our team just creatively went to capture that, and it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What about your place in like the future of Voluspa? Like, do you see yourself running it for a long time, and like, and if not, like, are there other things that you are passionate about that you would also want to do?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it right now. It's been there's been a lot of changes in the last few years, and right now I'm so thrilled with the team we have, and as we expand out and are doing new fun things like this collaboration, or potential retail expansions, and product line extensions. I feel still, even though it's been 25 years, I still feel like a budding entrepreneur in a lot of ways. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. People always ask me, are we going to ever sell? It's been very, we've never, taken on any investment since the beginning. And, so it's just, myself as the owner, and, Tracy owns, a portion of it as well. And that's it. And so, it made it hard through the years, but like,
right.
It's been good for us because, we've never had any sort of like financial goals or pressure. It's like our North Star is always like, what's the best thing for the brand? And so that's every decision we make is like, what's good for the brand, not like, how are we going to achieve X percentage of revenue growth?
I love that you mentioned that, because I think it's starting to kind of become a little bit more apparent. But there, throughout the years, there's been this like, fantasy of like having a venture-backed business and having investors. And I'm not saying that all those experiences are bad, but to your point, like it creates extra pressures, and sometimes it's not aligned with the founder's kind of mission or founder's timeline. Yeah. Like you might still feel like you want to continue to build, another 10 years, but maybe some investors want to have some sort of liquidation event or an exit to get their money back. And so sometimes those timelines aren't aligned. And so like, obviously the ideal is having full ownership, but like to your point, it's very hard to do.
Yes. Yeah. So, we'll see what the future holds. I mean, I wouldn't say that would never happen, but right now I'm just really enjoying it. It's fun. My daughters are teenagers now, and they, I'm always talking to Poppy, my 14-year-old, about like what's going on TikTok, and she's giving me tips about, what should we be doing, and my older daughters, Anais and Paloma, they love like hearing about it and talking about it. My older daughter worked at the store for a while in Fashion Island, so it's been a new kind of era, and I'm having a lot of fun with it right now.
Is there any, you sell internationally, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anywhere you've been that you saw Voluspa candle and you're like, holy crap, that's insane?
It's amazing. I mean, I see it pretty much everywhere, but like the greatest experience I had was I went on this like business trip on a safari in Africa, and we stayed at this like really cool luxury kind of safari camp called Singita, and I was just there with these business group friends, and like we walk into the gift shop there, and Voluspa was on retail, and I had no idea because it was like our distributor there that had sold it in. So like, my friends were just, all laughing and kind of giving me a hard time about it. Like, but it's pretty neat to see it. We're sold in like I think over 80 countries, and that part of the business is a lot of fun.
That's amazing. When you look back, do you ever look back, like to where you started and where it is now, and just kind of have to pinch yourself of like, that's a crazy journey, but like, wow, I can't believe how big it's gotten.
Yeah. I feel fortunate. It really, it's pretty special. And I feel even more fortunate that I still love it so much to this day, and that, I have an amazing group of people I get to work with every day, and come and get to do fun things like this, like talk to you. So I'm loving it. Well,
Troy, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming by and just sharing your story and everything you've built, and it's an incredible business you've built, and I'm excited to see what comes next, in the next 2 decades, 3 decades for the business and for you, and appreciate you coming by.
Oh, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
The statements made in our ad reads are for informational purposes only. The products discussed are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before starting any new supplement, especially if you have pre-existing medical conditions or taking medication.